Hi, welcome to this video. I'm writing A grade controlled assessment paragraphs. This video is on Curley's wife lack of name. So here's all the discussion topics that we've talked about. I'm going to do a video on each of these, so have a look at any of the other ones if you want to. Again, like I said, we're looking at her lack of name. So quickly before we get on to the point evidence explain paragraphs, if you don't want to fail like this guy, please make sure you don't just talk about plot. If you just do that, you're only going to get an E grade in your controlled assessment. Where you're going to get your higher marks is from analysing language, so please don't just talk about plot. So a perfect PE is point evidence explain, like you would have done at school. Make a point, give a quote, and then say why you've picked that quote and how it proves your point. But what we're going to add to get B and A grades is we're going to zoom in on a word or two words in the quote, and then we're going to bring in context, 1930s America. So this one is a little bit of a special one, really, because we're not going to look at a specific quote. We're just looking at the fact that she's called Curley's wife. In all the other videos, we probably have a 2 or 3 line quote. In this one, we've only got 2 words. Okay, so there's my quote at the top. My point is going to be Curley's wife is never given a name throughout the story. And then basically I'm going to explain why I think she hasn't. 3 reasons why she's not given a name, why I think that. My first reason is that it shows she's Curley's possession. So just like his hat or his horse, she's his possession, just like them. And to be honest, he doesn't really value her above them. Okay, and number 2 is Lennie's soft thing. So this might be one that you haven't really talked about too much. We talked about it in my class, but maybe it's one you haven't heard. So if we look at Lennie, what soft things does Lennie like? Well, he likes the girl from Weed, he likes Curley's wife's hair, he likes the mouse, he likes the puppy, he likes velvet. Well, what do these things have in common? Well, basically they're all nameless. So the girl from Weed doesn't have a name, Curley's wife doesn't have a name, the mouse doesn't have a name, the puppy doesn't have a name. So all of those things that Lennie doesn't like do not have names, they're nameless. And then the second question here is what happens to those soft things? Well, basically, they all, apart from the girl of Weed, who is the least hurt or is the least horrified of what she's been through, the other ones die. So all the other things that Lennie's likes, who are nameless, like Curley's wife, die. So perhaps we could say that Steinbeck is foreshadowing, so remember, giving us a warning, giving the reader a warning, he's foreshadowing that because she's nameless and Lennie likes her, that she's going to die. And number 3, the third reason, and this is where we can get 1930s American to it, is it just shows that women were second-place citizens. Yeah, they weren't. A woman's place in society was far, far below the men. So Steinbeck is saying that she doesn't even deserve a name like the men because that's where women's role was in the 1930s. So my point is Curley's wife is never given a name throughout the story. My evidence is she's only called Curley's wife. My first explanation is this indicates that she belongs to her husband. She is his possession just like his horse, his hat and his handgun. Then I'm going to talk about the thing I talked about with Lennie's soft things. Perhaps Steinbeck has also left her nameless so we can associate her with all of Lennie's soft things that are also nameless. Everything that Lennie likes is soft, and that in turn ends in disaster. This means it could be argued that the fact she is nameless is foreshadowing her death. And then we're going to talk about context, 1930s America. Her name or lack of is a symbol of male oppression, so that means males dominating in 1930s America. In that time, women were only seen as second-class citizens and only seen fit for reduction and looking after the men's sex objects or housewives. Remember my point evidence explainer, I did talk about at the start about zooming in on a word. I can't really do this too much in this quote because it's only 2 words. If I wanted to, I could zoom in on the apostrophe on Curley's because we use an apostrophe for possession, so we could talk about that. But generally in a bigger quote, we can zoom in on language more than we can on this one. And there it is, put into a big paragraph. So remember, in a normal point evidence explain, you would only have done up to the blue, and if you did it well, maybe get an C. If not so well, maybe a C- or D. However, by adding the pink, the context, and adding a zoom in when we can, not in this one, but generally we can, you're looking at B grade and A grade. So remember, point, evidence, explain, zoom in on a word, discuss context. Okay, that's it for this video on Curley's wife's lack of name. Please look through the other videos, and that should give you a big help for the upcoming controlled assessment.